Hello and welcome to this series on wind shift strategy tips. So in this series I'm going to be going over one tip per video to help you improve your wind shift strategy when you're out on the water. So without further ado, let's get started. So today we're going to be discussing whether you should tack to leeward of crossers. So crossing boats, crossers, are boats that are crossing ahead of you. Fairly self-explanatory. So we're just going to go over some quick basics and then we'll get into the meaty stuff. So the goal of sailing upwind in shifts is to be further upwind than your opponents. So naturally, when the wind shifts, the most upwind boat will also change. Your goal should be to position yourself advantageously for when the next shift comes in. So if you think the next shift is going to go right, it's probably a good idea to get on port tack. So here's an example, two boats, both on port. The wind is currently slightly left, and they believe that the wind is going to go right soon, as it should do in an oscillating breeze. So sure enough, the wind goes right, and both boats have to bear away, so they're not stuck head to wind. And then they can both tack onto what is now the lifted tack. So by going to the header, getting headed, they were able to tack and get on the lifted tack. So going towards a header is basically the key to wind shift strategy. So with that covered, let's get into the meaty stuff. In this scenario, there are two boats with blue a few boat lengths ahead of pink. Now, naturally, boats further upwind will receive any wind shifts before the boats downwind of them. So in this case, we see that blue has received this left wind shift before pink. So if you are behind and you see boats ahead of you tacking on a shift that hasn't reached you yet, you have a dilemma. Should you wait for it to reach you before tacking, or should you tack now? If you expect the wind to shift back the other way during the beat, then tacking now could be the best option. So let's follow this scenario. So at this point, if we overlay our ladder rungs, it shows that blue is about 1, 2, 3, 4 ladder rungs upwind of pink. So we'll see later that this distance will shorten if pink chooses to tack before the shift hits her. So this left shift has come in and blue has been headed, so he will want to tack onto the new lift, and pink decides to tack to leeward of blue before the wind shift hits her, and soon enough she gets the left shift too. So sure enough, the wind goes right and both boats are headed, so have to bear off. And at this point, with the wind in its new right position, we see that there's very little difference in the ladder rung lead between the two boats. So that 4 ladder rung lead that blue had has narrowed to almost nothing. So now let's look at what would have happened if pink had decided to carry on until she received this left shift too. So here we see again that blue has received the left shift before pink, but because pink has waited to tack on the shift, she is still 4 ladder rungs behind blue. So when the right shift comes in, she is late to receive that too, and blue maintains or increases their lead over pink. Another disadvantage of waiting to tack on the shift is that you may well end up tacking in the dirty area of the boat ahead. At least with tacking to leeward, if you tack into the dirty area of boats ahead, you can always bear away a bit and get out of it. Bearing away also gives you more speed and gets you to the next header quicker. So don't be afraid to do it when you're in dirty air. One point to note about this tack to leeward strategy is that it's probably most useful when you're focusing on just being ahead of a few boats. So it's less useful in handicap racing or when you're racing against a big fleet. So when shouldn't you tack to leeward of crossers? There are 2 scenarios when it might make sense to carry on until the shift hits you. So these are if the wind is fluky and if the next wind shift brings stronger wind. So back to if the wind is fluky. If you're sailing on a venue with a fluky wind, then you may tack to leeward of crossers, anticipating the wind will shift for you as it has done for the crossing boat, then that shift may never reach you. Being a lake sailor, I know this all too well. Because of the trees, the wind can be very random, meaning a boat just a few boat lengths away can be in a completely different wind than you. In these venues, it usually pays to wait until the wind shift hits you before you tack. This gives you the certainty that you will get the advantage from that wind shift. Also, if the wind shift up ahead looks like it's bringing with it a big increase in wind strength, then it will probably pay to carry on and reach it as soon as possible so you can get the boat speed increase that gust will bring. So if we look here, same scenario, Blues experience this left shift, but in this case the left shift is bringing with it a big increase in wind speed, which will give a big increase in boat speed for any boat that can get in it. So Pink should carry on to get that increase in wind speed. If she tacks early, then she's over here and she's missed out on this gust that Blue's got. So, just a quick recap. You should usually tack to leeward of crossers if you believe the wind is going to shift back the other way. If you wait to tack until you're in the wind shift that the boat ahead of you gets, then you'll lose an opportunity to make a gain when the wind shifts back. The two exceptions to this are if you're sailing on a really fluky venue when the wind is doing different things all over the course. And the second reason you might want to carry on to the new wind shift is if that wind shift brings with it a significant increase in wind strength. So that's it for this video. I'm going to be releasing more of these strategy tip videos, so stay tuned for that, and subscribe and turn on notifications if you're interested in this sort of thing. That just means that you don't miss any of the videos when they come out. So until next time, happy sailing.